You can put flotation tires on just the front of the car, and only the front will float. Is that so, Captain? Well, I guess we'll just have to try, won't we? Hello and welcome back to Offroad Outlaws, y'all, and if you're having trouble with the latest update, please pay close attention to the following. Recently, the developers released a patch for the latest update that clears up a bunch of the issues that people were experiencing, including but not limited to issues with the names of gears in the menu, the axis width, the suspension travel, all of that stuff should be fixed now. Elite member physics button fixed, multiplayer names fixed, stuck loading screen fixed, and a lot of other bug fixes behind the scenes, which means this is now version 6.6.2 of the game as opposed to 6.6.1, which was the larger update that delivered the new vehicles and things like that. Now, one thing that I have not shown yet in any of my videos about the update is I haven't shown anything that is new in terms of map creation. Now, the map that we are on right now is called TRS Long Drag, and there are a lot of really interesting features on this map, like things and features and little things that you might not have noticed at first glance. First of all, I wanted to see if I could climb this muddy hill, and really quickly, I discovered that that was a really bad idea, and I was probably going to need a truck that was a lot bigger and a lot taller and had a lot larger tires. But either way, there are a lot of different, like, wide open drag strips on this map. They're not even drag strips, they're more like drag highways. This one is 9 freaking miles. 9 miles! That is so much distance. It's so long. Now, obviously, the vehicles that I brought out to this map, which were my F450 and my Jeep Gladiator, were not optimized for a map like this by any means. These are not drag racing builds. I'll definitely do some of those here in the near future, but what I wanted to show y'all on this map is the new boost pads. Now, the boost pads are really cool because if you drive onto a boost pad, you literally don't have to do anything. You can let go of the gas entirely and your vehicle just takes off. Now, granted, this thing is very low geared at the moment, and so it only hit 164 miles an hour. I went and messed with the gears, and then it was able to go well over 200, but there are vehicles that are well into the multiple hundreds of miles an hour on these boost pads. These boost pads will basically instantly teleport you to your vehicle's maximum gear allowable speed, no matter what your vehicle is. It could be an off-road vehicle, it could be a drag truck, it could be, it could be an ATV, it could be whatever the heck you want it to be. These boost pads are going to max it out, and I'm sure that people that create racing maps are going to be able to do so many cool and creative things with these boost pads, and so I can't wait to see what ends up, coming of these in the future, especially with all of the creativity within the map making community. Now, another thing that I want to address is I noticed on both my initial update release video as well as the video where I did a flotation build on the limo, we did like a monster flotation build, I noticed a lot of comments that were either people saying that they couldn't get the update on their device or that the update was somehow quote-unquote fake. I don't know where anybody would get the idea that the update was fake. I mean, literally, the developers themselves made release announcement posts about it, so no clue where those comments are coming from. But to the people that are not that are having trouble accessing the update on their device, or they're opening the game and they're like, why is the new stuff not here? You have to go to your almost said your vehicle's app store. I meant your device's app store, but either way, you have to go to your device's app store and you have to manually make sure that you update the game. Because when you go to your app store or your Google Play Store or whatever the equivalent is on your device, there should be an option to manually download the update. So again, make sure you double, triple check, because the update will not just automatically install itself. If you just open up the game, you're going to have the old version, right? You're not going to have the new vehicles. You're not going to have the new bug fixes. You have to go to your app store and you have to manually make sure that the update has been downloaded and installed. I just want to go ahead and clarify that for y'all because I've seen a lot, and I mean a lot, of comments lately saying my game didn't update. Why don't I have the new features? Why don't I have the new vehicles? That is why. If you're having that issue, that is why. And now, after adjusting the gearing on this F450, I wanted to take it back out here to the boost pads and see how much more speed we could get out of it. Now, again, you don't have to be on the throttle for this. You can literally just approach them and it takes off. I mean, this literally just takes over. You don't have to do anything. As you can see, you know, you don't hear anything right now. And the reason you don't hear anything is because the driving force for these is completely separate from the vehicle's engine and drivetrain itself. I mean, this is 100% physics-based speed. It's not engine-based speed. So, I mean, but again, you're still gear limited, but it's the force affecting your vehicle is coming from the surface of the terrain itself, i.e. the boost pad, rather than the engine and the drivetrain of the vehicle. So that's why you're not hearing any engine sound. Now, we were able to get this thing up to about 259 miles an hour, which is pretty dang fast for a dually. And, you know, at a certain point, this opens up into a much wider highway. So I guess it's to see how long you can keep that in, you know, massively insane speed going. And here you can see we got back into the power and we were able to get up to about, 220, 225 miles an hour. It's not bad. Again, especially for what this thing is, it's not bad at all. Also, to circle back around to the latest patch for the update, if y'all noticed, the member features are back in the game now. Now, I'm sure that there was a, like an odd glitch or something that messed those up, but again, now those are back in the game. As you saw earlier on in the video, I'm able to click on, the options and add in things like, heavy coal, 5 times drone speed, no vehicle damage. All that good stuff is back in the game now as of this latest patch, and I'm really glad that it's back. Now, again, if you are a fan of those features, I'm sure you'll be glad that they're back, especially if you, bought the membership. And if you're not a fan of those features, then you don't really have to even touch them. You don't have to mess with them if you don't want to. So I think it's kind of a win-win for everybody. And in this section of the video, I wanted to respond to that comment that I showcased earlier on in the beginning, where someone was like, hey, if you only put flotation tires on one end of the vehicle, only that end will float. And I was like, this sounds like a hilariously bad idea, and I must give it a try. And I figured the best vehicle to try this with would be my Monster Dually Charger Hellcat, because that's the wackiest combination of, words I could come up with for a vehicle. But the first test, we put the flotation tires on the front, and we've got dually mud tires on the back. Now, this thing is ridiculously powerful. It'll jump over everything. If you get in the right kind of timing with the throttle and the nitrous, it'll essentially bunny hop itself. If you do the timing right, and it doesn't always work, but it's hilarious to drive regardless. And while a setup like this is probably not a legitimate strategy for any end goal apart from having fun, I would still recommend you try it, either if you're bored in the game or you just want something crazy to show off to your friends and be like, hey, I'm gonna do something strange and wacky and not what any of you expected at all. Unless your friends are like me and have already tried as many wacky things as they could possibly try, and so you end up with a full lobby of just nothing but wacky vehicles, which does in fact happen sometimes. But either way, we're gonna pull up to the boat ramp and we're gonna see what this setup does. And it's odd. That's the best way I can describe it. It's odd. So as you can see, the back axle sinks and the front axle floats, and that is literally what happens until you let off the throttle and you instantly fall under the water, to which you just repeatedly turtle over and over and over again, and you cannot continue on again until you get back to the shore and start over. However, I did discover that you can drive upside down under the water, and I guess if you want to sneak around upside down under the water like a submarine, you could also do that. I mean, again, I don't think it's a legitimate strategy for anything, but it's certainly hilarious. So then I said, okay, what'll happen if I swap them out on the rear and I do flotation tires on the rear and mud tires on the front? This one was even worse. I'm gonna go ahead and say, I tell y'all right now, this one was worse. I'm not gonna tell you how much worse, but I'm gonna tell you that it was for a fact worse. And it's not even that the car drove badly on land, it didn't have as much grip at the rear on land, but like when it gets into the water, you'll see why this is such a horrible idea, especially considering the fact that this car right now doesn't have any rear steer. So when you don't have any rear steer and your rear axle is way wider than your front axle and you get into the water and your steer axle doesn't float, it's kind of just a recipe for a bunch of things that you really don't want to deal with. And while I did kind of expect these things going into it, I kind of felt like there's no way I could try the floating front axle and not try the floating rear axle. Also, don't mind me running into stop signs. It's all part of the strategy. Whatever that strategy is. There's really no strategy to it at all, other than, like, this thing is way too big for a lot of the roads around here. But step one was drive into the water and immediately ruin everything, because the second those steer tires don't have the ability to float, you're kind of gone. And even on my second attempt, things kind of got wacky very, very quickly. Like, if you put it in rear-wheel drive with the rear diff locked, that's kind of your best bet. But again, the second the front end goes under the water, you're basically ruined. But if y'all would like to see more from the latest Offroad Outlaws update and stay as up-to-date as possible on this game, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn those notifications on, and I will be back soon with more Offroad Outlaws as well as many other games, and I hope y'all are enjoying watching, and if you are, again, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, and hit that like button, and I'll see y'all next time.